Coachella Valley, and welcome to your small business headquarters. I'm your host, Katie Stice with the Rancho Mirage Chamber of Commerce, and welcome. Happy New Year. I know it's already been a tough new year, but you know what we do here at the Chamber? We do what we can to help our businesses, to help our local professionals, and you're going to want to stick around for today because we have the Small Business Development Center here that's going to help break down the grants that are available now, right? The California grant, that's $500 million that's out there. Who's eligible, what you're going to need. There's PPP loans that are going to be coming out, and nonprofits and 501c6s are going to be eligible this time. And then the SBDC has a host, just a suite of programs that help your business through the year. So without further ado, let's go ahead and welcome in our guest. Please give a warm welcome to Lisa Napolitano. I hope I got that right. Of the SBDC. Chances are you already have seen her, met her. She's done a ton of Zoom calls since the very beginning. And Lisa, welcome to the Small Business Headquarters, and thanks for being here.
Thanks, Katie. Thanks for inviting me. Happy to share what I know with all the small businesses in the Coachella Valley.
Well, we appreciate all of the support. You're just dynamite. And let's just dive right in, first and foremost, to this California grant. The deadline, when we first heard it, it was going to end tomorrow, but it was extended. So for people who have not yet applied for that California grant, can you tell us a little bit about who is eligible and then what they're going to need to apply?
Sure. So the California grant opened on December 30th, and it had a lot of technical difficulties. And I'm hearing from all the people that I work with now that they're having success as of today, using the system, getting their passwords, and uploading documents. So if anybody out there is already in progress trying to complete the application, I've heard good things today. And that's why the deadline was extended to the 13th to basically factor in some lost days. So a couple things. Most people are eligible for this grant. It's kind of like the usual disqualifiers would be financial lenders, sex organization trade, cannabis, the kinds of religious organizations, but not for profit, C3, C6. As long as they don't do more than 20% of their revenue on lobbying, they're eligible. And the real main eligibility factor is that your business is not larger than $2.5 million of gross per year. So maybe some of our larger restaurants and larger businesses might not come underneath that threshold. But if you sold at least $1,000, meaning you had sales in 2019, up to $2.5 million, you're eligible. If you're an independent contractor, sole proprietor, all of those types of people, any type of corporation, you're eligible. The one other area that is not eligible is real estate management. And the way to easily explain that is if you file a Schedule E on your tax return, you wouldn't be eligible for the grant. So that would be people in more landlord status.
And these grants, and these grants are in, is it $5, $15, and $25,000 increments? Is that right?
Yes. So up to $100,000 of revenue is a $5,000 grant. 100 to $1 million is a $15,000 grant, and $1 million to $2.5 million is $25,000. And there's 2 rounds of application. We don't have the dates for the second round yet. They did not release them. However, once you're in the system, you do not apply again. So unless they reject you because of some disqualifying element, you roll over automatically into the second round. So if you don't get offered a grant in the first round, you are in the system and will automatically be considered for the second round.
Great. Okay. And tell us a little bit about, for someone who is going on the website, which, by the way, for all of you that are watching, Lisa's email is here. Feel free to contact her with questions or coaching or assistance. And then, of course, the SBDC website is there as well, where you can get all of these links and a ton of information for your business. Tell us a little bit about what people are going to need to have with them in order to actually put in the application.
Yeah, so you'll need to upload things like your photo ID, your 2019 tax return, There's a certification document that you'll download from the site. It's 4 pages. It's a PDF. It's not hard to answer, but it requires a signature at the bottom. And a lot of people are concerned that, do I have to print it out and scan it? I found out yesterday, no. They will accept you to type in your signature. And if you're offered a grant and they want you to redo the paperwork, they'll ask you at that time. So some people are not in a position to have a scanner available to them. And so I just want to put that out there because that's been a little glitch for some people. You'll need to also know 2 numbers in order to fill out the application that a lot of people won't know off the top of their head. One is, what was your gross revenue in 2019 from March 1st, or excuse me, from April 1st to September 30th, basically second and third quarter, what was your gross revenue combined? And you'll need to know that for 2020 as well. So again, a lot of people are like, I have to call my CPA, don't know that number.
That's right.
Get the number before you try to apply so you don't get frozen in the middle of the application. So you'll need to know that. I will admit upfront that it's a long application.
Okay.
It's more complicated than the EIDL application or even the PPP application. And when I say complicated, it asks a lot of questions. And what I can say is that some people don't know how to answer certain questions. We have screenshots at SBDC of every single question you're going to be asked. And I have had numerous people who say, I'm stuck. I don't know what to pick from the drop down. And I say, give me a screenshot of where you are. And I give them a text and say, put this in the number in the field. So
great. What a great resource you are. I mean, it's so nice to be able to know we have someone like you out there to help us through these things because it's all new to everybody, but you've really done a great job of guiding folks through.
Well, that's what we're here for. We're a nonprofit organization funded by taxpayer dollars. So we're there to help small businesses free of charge, and we'll do whatever we can to make it easier for you. So now that the technical glitches seem to be worked out, if you haven't applied yet, you didn't lose any time. It's not first come, first serve. So I want to set a little expectation on this grant because there's 4 criteria they're using to sort of prioritize the grants. And basically what they're doing is they're assessing how harmed was your business due to COVID restrictions. And so based on where you're located and what the rules in your county and in the state were at any given time, forced closure or minimal ability to practice business, those types of industries, they're going to prioritize those. They're also going to look at revenue loss. So the 2 numbers I asked you to have, they'll look at your tax return, but your tax return doesn't say what kind of a year you had in 2020. So when they look at Q2 and Q3 year over year, they're looking to see how much damage you had. Most people will have most of their damage in those 2 quarters. And so they're looking to see how hard hit were you. And then they want to make sure that underserved communities get access to money. So that would be women and minority owned businesses and low income communities. And you're going to have a scorecard and they're going to give you a score. And if you pass a certain threshold in the score, they're going to offer you a grant.
Wow, very interesting. Now, let's jump over to this. I keep hearing about a new payroll protection program. It's going to be coming out. I don't think there's a date yet, but tell us a little bit about the difference between the previous PPP and the one that's coming up.
So if you didn't get the first PPP for whatever reason, unless you didn't qualify, but if you didn't go for it, or you had difficulty with it, the second PPP is pretty much the same as the first one for a first-time applicant. The only difference being if you are in industry code 72, which is accommodation and food, you are eligible for even more money in this round of PPP. They will use a 3.5 multiplier instead of a 2.5 multiplier, which means they're going to give you 3.5 months of average wages that you paid in 2019 instead of 2.5, recognizing that that industry was significantly hit harder than most others. But if you got a PPP in the first round, you will be eligible to get a second PPP if you meet one criteria primarily, and that is that you can show 25% loss of gross revenue in any quarter, just one quarter, between 2019 and 2020. And there's lots of businesses that had a really bad quarter, but then bounced back and are doing better. You don't have to show that kind of loss over the whole year. Just one quarter, you can pick anyone that you want. So that's really good news, I believe. And honestly, if you spend it the right way, that ends up being a forgivable loan. That's good money for people. And the forgiveness rules are primarily the same. Just one thing I want to say about PPP. I've met people who were told they didn't qualify for PPP the first time, and someone gave them that information, and I meet them and I look at their data and I say, "Ooh, you actually could have gotten it the first time." So if you think you're not eligible, I really recommend you email me and let me make sure that's true. It could be true and you got good advice, but it might not be. And I certainly wouldn't want anybody to miss out on getting PPP if they're eligible. So
absolutely. That's really great advice. And again, thank you for being there for people. By the way, you have a ton of comments of people who love you and work with you. Luz from Bank of Southern California, she's actually my incoming treasurer. She said, "You're amazing. I send my clients to you all the time." So I know you have a big fan club out there. I mean, these really are game changers for businesses. In fact, there are many that are saying, we might need to close until these things are come to us, because it's just getting harder and harder the longer that we're shut down. Are there other grants or loans or opportunities out there that you want people to be aware of?
Yeah. So just on the timing of PPP, I think we're looking at maybe a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks on the outset. So get ready, get your paperwork in order, get some advice, get some help, so that the minute that your lender is ready to do it, you're ready. And if your if your banker isn't participating in PPP, and by the way, some banks that did it the first time are not doing it the second time. Don't panic. We spend time matching you up with lenders. It's not hard. I know of tons of lenders that you could get your PPP from. It really doesn't matter where you get it from. And you also don't have to have gotten forgiveness on the first PPP in order to apply for the second. We're actually telling people, don't worry about forgiveness. We've been telling people about this for 6 months. The rules keep changing.
Yes.
There is no urgency to do it. It's not in your best interest. There's no downside to waiting. And when you go to do PPP forgiveness, we will help you do the paperwork. Which is one of the reasons banks love us, because we will work with you to make sure all your I's are dotted and T's are crossed, so you get the most forgiveness you're entitled to. So having said that, aside from PPP, the EIDL loan, the economic injury disaster loan, they're going to open up the program again. And the thing that I am hopeful about with EIDL is the grant portion of EIDL. For those of you that remember and participated in the process last year, there was a $10,000 advance grant that was talked about being a part of the EIDL process. And some people could get the grant, but be rejected for a loan. The two things were separate. And when they did finally distribute the grant, they did not distribute the full $10,000 per business the way Congress intended. They distributed $1,000 per employee. And so if you have a business that got less than 10,000 or didn't get the grant at all because they ran out of grant money before you could get it, like you might have even gotten a loan, but there was no grant money available. They're going to make it available for you to go after the difference between the $10,000 and what you might have gotten already. Okay. Here's the caveat to that. We know a couple things about it. One is, here we go. You need to show a loss of revenue of 25% in an 8-week period of your choice.
Okay.
2019 and 2020. So again, start running your QuickBooks numbers and stuff and start looking at your quarters year over year and just your months year over year, so you are aware of what your numbers are. The other qualifier for this is one we do not understand. I wish I could tell you I understood it. We don't know about it yet, but it's language referring to low-income communities. The EIDL grant language now is saying that you need to be operating in a low-income community. And so two things. One is, we're not sure what the actual definition of low-income community is. And until we know don't get discouraged or excited. Let's just wait and see how they're going to figure it out. And the second thing we're not sure of is if they're just setting aside a certain amount of money for low-income communities and another pool of money regardless, or if it's all going to require that you be in a low-income community. So without us knowing that, it's hard to really say who's going to qualify or not. So get your year-over-year numbers ready. And the minute that I know, I will come back and tell you. And if you're a client of mine, you'll get an email from me. And we're anticipating that similar timing to PPP. Couple of weeks, they should have a process ready to go to with better defined rules that I could speak to.
Okay. And just going back just a little bit, do you know the timing for the PPP and that idle that's going to be coming out? Do you have an approximate time?
Yeah, a week and a half, 2 weeks.
Okay.
Is what we're being told.
Great. Yeah. Okay. Then this is perfect timing to start getting.
Get ready so you can get in there, because the California grant is not first come, first serve. PPP and idle is. Whoever's in there first is getting the money first. And so speed is of the essence there. And you don't want to do it wrong, which is why we encourage you to use our services, just to make sure that your paperwork's right and your numbers look good and everything we need to know, we know, so we can help you get the money.
So glad to talk with you today about this, because you're right. There is a lot of misinformation. So I've printed pieces out and I've had people tell me first come, first serve. And so it's great to know that for the California grant, they're all going to be looked at after the 13th, which is the deadline. And best part of that is that the website is working now. And so people can go on and they're not going to get jammed up if they've heard horror stories about it. It's working now. Yeah. People are getting their applications in, which is great to know. Just a question, because I'm interested. Why are some banks not participating in the PPP this time?
Well, some of your members might be able to speak better to this, but the bottom line is, it's mostly the smaller banks, really, because a smaller bank doesn't have the resources of a bigger bank, and they can't make their numbers and fulfill their metrics if they're spending a lot of energy processing loans that don't actually stay as loans. They're actually forgiven. And so it's tough for a small business, like a small local bank. You know, they want to be a good player in the community, which is why they participated so heavily the first time. But it was a very cumbersome process the first go around, and they don't really make any money on doing it. And that's not a big deal for Wells Fargo, but it's a much bigger deal for a community bank. So I don't fault them at all for that. I think having had the experience the first time, it makes sense to me. So don't panic if your local bank isn't going to do the PPP, because honestly, PayPal Online does the PPP. Lendio does the PPP. The trick is to know who's better with their customer service, whose application process has the least glitches, whose paperwork is more streamlined, who has a phone number where someone actually answers the phone. And we have a little insight into that. And you know, I had people who applied online and then never heard anything and panicked. And so I'm like, okay, let's put your application over here. And there's some people we tried 3 or 4 places before they actually got the money. So we can help you do that so that you get your application successfully in a timely fashion, so you get your fair share.
So really, we want to go to Lisa for everything. So just jot down the email and if you really, I mean, if you haven't, I know a lot of you, because I've seen the comments, a lot of you have already worked with Lisa, and she is amazing. And it sounds too good to be true, but she is that incredible. But really, these things are all difficult and hard, and we've never done them before, or we did them the first time and they're very different now. And so utilize this resource, because we want you to stay open. We want you to get this access. If you have questions, you can ask me, but chances are you're going to be going right over to Lisa to get those things answered. And tell us a little bit about, just as we kind of conclude, tell us a little bit about some other things that the SBDC has going on kind of throughout the year beyond the assistance through these programs.
Sure. So a lot of people got to know us because our name came up with respect to accessing money. But really, all year round, we help businesses do any number of things. I've got clients where I help them with their sales and marketing, and that could be their strategy. It could be looking at their social media and their website. It could be how they're pricing their products, or if they want to get into a different part of their business. We help people with leases when they move. Is this a good contract for me? Can you take another look at it? We help people with their operations. We help people launch businesses. We help people sell businesses. We are basically a sounding board and another voice in the mix of the people and the resources you already use as a small business, where, you know, we have nothing to gain from you. You can't even buy me a cup of coffee. And I've been offered a lot of cups of coffee. A jeweler offered me the watch of my choice. And I thought, oh my God, donate to charity. We cannot benefit in any way from our working with you, except the satisfaction that we can actually help you think through your business, help you read your new website and say, oh, I changed this word, I changed that word. I mean, we really can do a lot. And I'm not saying I am the perfect resource for everything. There's 100 people like me in the Orange County Inland Empire, SBDC. We've got experts in every conceivable subject. And so if you use me as a portal, come to me with your issues. And if I connect you to some other people in my network who are the right person for you to work with, you can work with multiple consultants at SBDC. There's no limit, really. It's just what's best for you as a business. And we do a lot of training workshops. I hope people on the call have utilized our workshops. We're rolling out new stuff in 2021. It's always free. Very good. They record them. So if the timing doesn't work for you, or you want your employees to watch it after, or your husband, they will give you a link and you can watch the recording. It's such a good resource for small business education. I really highly recommend our programs.
Yeah, you guys have done a phenomenal job, and continue to send them to us so that we can put them in our newsletters and get them out to our membership. And it's nice because when we are able to send those out, it really does make people feel like they're not going through this alone, that they've got someone who they can ask questions to. And speaking of questions, we do have one. Does the California grant apply to new small businesses opened October 2020?
The one thing that was not accounted for in any grant or loan I have seen due to COVID is the start date of the business being later than the start of COVID. And so the latest I've ever seen a qualifying date is February of 2020. I know some people that bought businesses this year that were under duress, and they just don't qualify for anything. Basically, your business had to be in operation under your ownership prior to the technical start of COVID for these types of programs. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't help people find financing for their business, even though it's a challenge, but we can try. But of course, that's not free money. That would be a more traditional loan. And if you're really in need of finance, start with us, because we know of a lot of small business programs and small micro loans for people who don't qualify for some of the better programs and the grants because of the thing you just said, that their business is just too new.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, Lisa, I'm going to try to say your last name again. Napolitano.
I've learned it a million ways in my life. They all will.
I tell you what, you are just a blessing in our community.
Thank you.
Thank you for all of your help and support through this time. I know this is not the last time we're going to see you. We're going to have you back and continually helping businesses through this entire recovery process. You're instrumental in that. And thank you so much for joining us today. We sure do appreciate it.
Thanks for inviting me. Keep doing such a great job with the Rancho Chamber. They're lucky to have you.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I'll see you soon. Okay, Lisa?
All right. Take care. Bye, everybody.
And the website is still right on the screen. If you haven't visited yet, that's where you're going to find everything. CoachellaValleySBDC.org. Hope you can get there, get some more information, reach out to Lisa. If there's a way that your chambers of commerce, SBDC, can help you or your business, we are here. Please don't hesitate to reach out. You're not in this alone, and we know that it is just a crucial, critical time, but we're here for you. So Thanks for joining us today with your small business headquarters. We are jumping into 2021, helping with any kind of safe, successful, and sustainable recovery that we can. And we'll look forward to seeing you all soon via Zoom or otherwise. Take care.